You got raped or molested. It has become your nightmare any moment you remember it.
Hare Krishna.
Because unforgiveness is a pit. And the only solution for those who fall into it is the ladder of forgiveness.
Hare Krishna, mother. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll start soon.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, Mata Lila.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yeah, you're welcome to Hare Krishna, Africa. Hello.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here. I'm very humbled to be here. Thank you.
You're welcome. So,
Please, Sir Dave, your kitten is still playing.
yeah.
Prabhupada is playing.
Sorry. Yeah, I would like to introduce our speaker today to the forum. Today we are blessed and fortunate to have Her Grace, Mother Lila Devi Dasi, She's been a Bhakti yoga practitioner for more than 10 years. She's a disciple of His Holiness Sridhananda Maharaj. She found her spiritual home in the Bhakti Center in New York City and has been a dedicated devotee to the service ever since. Her services include event organization, leading community groups, and hosting and supporting an online Sangha for Spanish-speaking women in the US and Latin America. She is currently doing full-time service for the Bhaktivedanta Institute in Gainesville, Florida. So that is a very short, brief intro to our revered speaker today. Mother Lila, so again, you are welcome to our platform, this Hare Krishna Africa. So today you're going to be transported all the way to Africa and many other parts of the world. So usually what we do is we try to mute everyone except you, the speaker, and then we'll put the verse on the screen. If you have the book with you, you may want to read from your book, or you may read from what we put on the screen. And then after that, you speak. It's just like normal temple giving class, right? Okay. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. So if you're ready, I'll put the verse on the screen and then we'll start from there.
I'm ready. Thank you so much.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Thank you all for welcoming me here. I'm very, very honored to be part of this Sangha today. And I'm not here because I'm qualified to speak. I'm here, what qualifies me to be here is that I'm a servant. I'm a servant of the devotees and of Mother Vraja Lila, who couldn't be here today. She was originally scheduled to speak. And she actually has been stung by an insect and is not feeling well. And so I'm here in that capacity, just as a servant, and to hold space for this Sangha and to share what little bit I can. So anything that I say that is in line with Shastra is because, and only because I have heard it from my teachers, from my spiritual master, from the devotees. And any errors and anything that is based on my own ignorance is mine alone. So I take full responsibility for that. But otherwise, thank you so much for allowing me to be here with you all.
You're very much welcome. Thank you.
So today we'll be speaking on Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 10th chapter, verse 14. And we'll just start off with some prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Tirayet. Nashta Prayesa Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya Bhagavati Utamashloke Bhakti Bhavati Nashtiki Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishavanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so this verse Srimad Bhagavatam 110:14. Nyarundan udgalad bhashpam autkantya devaki sute niryati agaranno bhadram iti syad bandhavastriya. Nyarundan, checking with great difficulty. Udgalat, overflowing. Bhashpam, tears. Outkantyat, because of great anxiety. Devaki sute, unto the son of Devaki. Niryati, having come out. Agarat, from the palace. Naha, not. Ahabadram, inauspiciousness. Iti, thus. Syat, may happen. Pandava, relative. Striyaha, ladies. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The female relatives, whose eyes were flooded with tears out of anxiety for Krishna, came out of the palace. They could stop their tears only with great difficulty. They feared that tears would cause misfortune at the time of departure. Purport. There were hundreds of ladies in the palace of Hastinapur. All of them were affectionate to Krishna. All of them were relatives also. When they saw that Krishna was going away from the palace for his native place, they were very anxious for him. And as usual, tears began to roll down their cheeks. They thought at the same time that tears at that moment might be a cause of misfortune for Krishna. Therefore, they wanted to check them. This was very difficult for them because the tears could not be checked. Therefore, they smeared their tears in their eyes and their hearts throbbed. Therefore, ladies who were the wives and daughters-in-law of those who died in the battlefield never came in direct contact with Krishna, but all of them heard of him and his great activities, and thus they thought of him, talked of him, his name, fame, etc., and became affectionate also, like those who were in direct contact. Therefore, directly or indirectly, anyone who thinks of Krishna, talks of Krishna, or worships Krishna becomes attached to him. Because Krishna is absolute, there is no difference between his name, form, quality, etc. Our intimate relation with Krishna can be confidentially revived by our talking of, hearing of, or remembering him. It is so done due to his spiritual potency. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Pashyate Adeshatarine. Okay, so this is our verse for today. It's a very moving scene. This Krishna is on his way out, and the love of his associates. This verse is speaking about the ladies. The love of his associates is so strong that they can't help but cry and be in misery. And what's interesting here is that they can't help but be in misery, but their love is so strong that even if that misery that they're in will bring him some inauspiciousness or bring his journey some inauspiciousness, they don't even want that misery. They don't even want to cry. And this is the type of love that is selfless, where the needs and what is best for the beloved is greater than anything, is greater than our own suffering if they were to not be in our presence. And this is the kind of love that we're aspiring for. It's greater than anything, and it is our nature. It's what we're trying to get back to. And so how do we get that love? Where are we on the journey of that? Because we can see in our lives that we love so many things and we strive for so many things and we put so much energy. When I think of the amount of effort and striving and energy that I've put into things in my life, such as some goal, maybe some job, some amount of money, some some education, and those things are good. They're valuable. They have their value in our lives. But it reminds me of the story of Bilva Mangala and Chintamani. Bilva Mangala was an acharya, and he was, one could say, addicted to the association of this person, of Chintamani, whose profession was of a prostitute. And one night he was so overcome by that desire that he went through the most grueling evening just to be in her association. He even risked his life. He went in this horrible, horrible torrential storm, very dangerous. It's not like now where you can, he didn't have an Uber to call and, take him to this person, to Chintamani's house. He had to walk there in the dark, couldn't see anything. Street lights aren't, there were no street lights, and he couldn't turn on his cell phone flashlight to see where he was going. So it was a very dangerous situation. And he, this is the best of him. This is his energy, his courage, all of these things to get to something that in that moment was very desirable for him. And he crosses a river, he climbs a window, and when he gets there, she reminds him. He finally makes it there, and she could understand what he went through to get there. And so what she says to him is she helps him see, and she helps him question himself. Where would I be if I were this attracted to the Supreme Lord? And I think that we can all ask ourselves that question. Where would we be if all of my energy was directed towards my spiritual life? Where would I be? How would I be? And who would I be? And this is the question that she brought to him. And in that moment, he realized, oh my goodness, yes, what am I doing? What am I doing with my energy, with my efforts? And I've been hearing this a lot lately. I think it's something that has come into my consciousness from different places, because it's something that we need to be reminded of. And that is that this life is very, very short. In the blink of an eye, a decade passed, 2 decades passed, and what happened? Oh my goodness, I thought I had all of this time. And so in that respect, when we think about what would I be doing, how would I be using my energy, it's relevant. And so there was once someone asked Mother Rukmini, what is the sign of a true devotee? And her answer was that it's said that a true devotee is someone who doesn't waste one moment on anything that is not Krishna conscious. And so what does that mean? Does that mean, well, I have to quit my job and I can't take my kids to the park, and I have to, can't, have some recreation, or I have to drop everything, drop all my friends and my family, and just dedicate myself to a very specific idea of Krishna consciousness? And that's not the answer. The answer is not to stop doing all those things, not to give all of those things up, not to give up our position, but do everything that we do with Krishna in the center. And okay, easier said than done, because we often forget. But this is, again, what we're striving for, what we're trying to get back to. And how do we do that? It's a practice. A few days ago, I think it was a few days ago, Her Grace Nitya Kishore spoke here. And in response to a question, she said, a question about how we recognize that we are not that attached to Krishna, just like this person was attached to Chintamani and not attached to Krishna. We're pretty much in the same position. And so the answer we recognize that, and then what do we do? So we don't beat ourselves up about it. We have to be honest about where we are. And she spoke about how we can't be devoted to someone that we don't know. And this is true. We can't love someone that we don't know. We can say all day long, surrender to Krishna, devote yourself to Krishna, give everything to Krishna. But if we don't truly know, and that love doesn't sprout naturally from our hearts, then we're just fooling ourselves. We're just pretending. And there is some almost like a fake it till you make it. And that's what our practice is. We practice being devoted. We practice being in relationship with him. We practice being in rasa with him, with the devotees. But it is a process. And how can we love someone that we don't know? Well, we have to get to know them. How do we get from A to B? And for most of us, this A of we don't know Krishna, and B till we're fully absorbed and can't stop the suffering from being in separation from being in separation from him, such as his associates in this verse. How do we get there? And we're in that in between. Between the A and the B. And for most of us, it's going to be this whole lifetime or many, many more lifetimes. She also spoke about how there's no loss in anything that we do. She talked about Shreyas, right? The things that we do in this life that actually, that don't diminish, we don't lose, they don't go anywhere. They are perpetual and they will keep us on that path. But how do we get there? How do we come to know him? And just like Chintamani, one answer is the association, the devotees. Chintamani was the association. And I once asked a sannyasi who was a very respected teacher of mine, and I asked him, just out of curiosity, I was very new to Krishna consciousness, and so I was asking everybody I could find this question. And I said, what is your favorite thing about Krishna? And without hesitation, just like quick as I asked the question, he said the devotees. I was surprised. I was thinking, why didn't he say his beauty or his equanimity or his flute playing is so intoxicating? He didn't say any of these things that I was expecting. He said the devotees. And I didn't understand it in that moment. And so, but I took note. I said, okay, if this person that I trust and I respect as a teacher is saying that his favorite thing about Krishna is the devotees, there must be something there. What does it mean? And it took me some time, but eventually I came to see that, I came to understand that, and it became also my favorite thing about Krishna. And what is that? Because why is that? Because the devotees are, by their radical mercy, by their love and their compassion, they bring us Krishna. And without the devotees, we have nothing. Who's going to bring us Krishna if it's not for the devotees and their love and their compassion? And they see us suffering, and they see, it's like, you ever have an experience of doing something and someone comes and says, oh, why don't you do it like this? And all of a sudden you're like, wow, that's so much easier. Oh, why didn't I think of that? It's like that. The devotees, they see how we're living, they see how we're suffering, and they see that the trajectory that our life is headed in. And out of their mercy, they say, why don't you live your life like this? Or here's how I live my life. What do you think? And then all of a sudden, wow, why didn't I think of that? Yeah, that is a great idea. This is so much better than the way I was doing it before. And so that's how we come to know about Krishna, is the devotees. The devotees one could argue that the devotees are more important than Krishna, because without them, we don't have Krishna. And he even as far as service, we please him more by being in association with the devotees and by serving the devotees and appreciating them. And so without the devotees, we have nothing. And this is part of how we come to know him, to understand him. But there's also more practical ways. So in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Bhumira po nalo vayu kammano bhudirevacha ahankara iti yame hina prakriti ashtadaha. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego, all together, these 8 constitute my separated material energies. Apareyamitas twanyam prakritim vidhime param jiva bhutam mahabaho yayidham dharyate jagat. Besides these, almighty armed Arjuna, there is another superior energy of mine, which comprises the living entities who are exploiting the resources of this material inferior nature. That's us. So this is another way. How do we come to be in association with Krishna? we come to the association of the devotees, but also this understanding that we are in relationship to him every single moment of our lives. And we have Bhagavad Gita that explains this to us. So Krishna gives us knowledge of himself. He tells us who he is before. In the 18th chapter, he says, surrender unto me, become my devotee, offer all homage unto me. He doesn't say from the beginning, oh, Arjuna, you should just surrender unto me right now. Because what actually that, maybe in this world, that could be dangerous, right? If we just surrender to someone we don't know, we haven't checked them out, done the background check, and at least found out from our friends, is this a good person? Is this a good job? What should I do? Do you have knowledge of this or that, whether it's a person or a corporation or someone we do business with? We have to know who we're dealing with. And so Krishna's sensitive to that. And so he gives us all of this knowledge. He gives us all of the understanding, even the most confidential. And then he says, okay, you can do what you want, but if you want, you can surrender to me. Man mana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mamevashyasi satyam te pratijani priyosime. So we realize that everything around us, he says, I am the splendor of the sun and the moon. I am the smell of the what is it? The smell of the earth. The fragrance of the earth, the taste and water. I am all of these things. And he's giving us this practical knowledge by which to realize him and by which to be in relationship with him in rasa. So we wake up in the morning, we take a deep breath. Okay, this consciousness, this breathing, this is Krishna's energy, that what's keeping me alive, what brought me back from being in this dream state. And if some days we're just, oh no, and we cry out to Krishna, like, please help me get through this day. Please let me offer this day to you. Let me do what I need to do. Give me the strength, whatever it is that we're needing in that moment. Or if we just wake up like, wow, what a beautiful day. For me, that happens when it's my birthday. I'm always like, yes, this is great. Krishna, thank you so much. So whatever the situation is, it gives us the opportunity to remember him, to cry out to him. And then we drink water in the morning. We offer water, we drink water. This is Krishna. The only reason I'm alive is because I have this. And we take some food, some honor prasadam. Also Krishna, the earth that this food was grown in was Krishna. The ability that was given to the people who helped bring this food to my table, that's Krishna. He says, I am the ability in man. All of these things. So it's just redirecting the mind and remembering that he's everywhere in one way or another. He's everywhere, everything. He is the sacrifice. He's in the Mahamantra. He's in everything and everywhere. And we forget. Well, I forget all the time. Every moment I forget. I'm always in forgetfulness. But I have the devotees. This is the greatest gift. If we have the devotees, if we have association, if we have sangha, then we have everything. Because they'll bring us Krishna. They'll remind us. We'll forget. We'll be in some misery. You call a devotee friend. Oh, this happened. And they'll say, okay, some way or somehow they'll bring us back to center, back to remembering what's important, back to, it'll be like Chintamani, like, oh, don't waste your time with this, or they'll help us figure out the solution, but they'll bring us back to the essence of what we're supposed to be expending our energy on. And so we have the different ways that Krishna manifests around us to show us, and it becomes so easy. I think Srila Prabhupada said this, it's simple, but it's not easy. It's simple, yes, just remember Krishna and never forget Krishna, right? The only two rules in Krishna consciousness, and every other rule, every other thing, regulation that we follow should serve those two rules. Always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. But we're always in forgetfulness, and therefore we have the devotees, we have our Shastra, we have Bhagavad Gita, we have Srimad Bhagavatam, we have the holy name. But there's another way also. He's in our hearts, sitting there as super soul. And for me at least, I don't have the realization where I'm, in that full Krishna consciousness. I forget and say, yeah, how is he my ever well-wisher, my best friend? Because the reality of it is, if I did realize that in every moment of every day, I wouldn't be in suffering. I wouldn't be in some kind of distress. But that's okay. That's the practice, right? This is the rasa where we're trying to get to him, where his associates are crying because they're in separation from him already, or they're going to be in separation from him. And so also I once had a teacher who said, never waste a good suffering. So we're suffering. Okay, we use that as an opportunity to remember, okay, I'm suffering because of this, because of that. I'm in separation from Krishna. Ultimately, every suffering that we have can be traced down to a sacred need, a sacred desire that is ultimately joyous. And oftentimes we think, well, I think I really want this and I'm suffering because I don't have it. But if I stop to think, why do I want that thing? Why do I desire that so much? Why am I hankering? Other than, just the mind, that's what the mind does. It hankers. But what is it that I really need? And I follow that thing or that desire and keep breaking it down. What do I need? What am I looking for? What am I searching? When we get to the end of any need, whether it starts off as some trivial material thing that we think has nothing to do with our identity, our spiritual identity, when we follow that all the way through, we come to realize that at the end of that desire, there is a sacred need. And that sacred need always, always, always comes back to Krishna. We're always seeking happiness. We're always seeking connection. Whether we're that seeking that freedom from suffering is because ultimately our true nature is to not be in suffering. And so we think, okay, I think I want this because I really, really want, let's just say a house. I think I want this house because, yeah, it's important that I have a house and I want somewhere to live. But we follow that down. What am I looking for? I'm looking for security. I'm looking for stability. I'm looking for home. I'm looking for maybe even love, right? Because a home usually represents love, where we have relationships with our family. And that rasa, that is also part of our nature. And we follow all that down: stability, security, safety, rasa, family, friendship, love, where all of that leads us back to Krishna, all of it. And so the need that is underneath, the undercurrent of everything that we desire is Krishna. We just have to follow it through and think, okay, why do I want this? And if it doesn't fit into that, then why waste our time? Then we're like Bila Mangala, right? Like, why am I wasting my time and energy with this if it's not going to bring me anything of substance? Better to desire something else that's going to bring me back to that connection. And so going back to Krishna in the heart, I may not understand that he's my well-wisher and my best friend, but I can think rationally. This person, this friend, goes anywhere that we want to go without complaint, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. And if our desires happen to bring us into a situation that is not the best situation, sometimes we end up in situations that are just painful, uncomfortable, not pleasant. He doesn't leave. He doesn't go anywhere. If our desires, and we'll speak about karma a little bit, if our desires bring us even into a body that is not human, let's just say we became a slug for one reason or another, or whatever living entity body you can imagine, He doesn't say, yeah, you go this time, I'm gonna stay over here. He follows us there. And how many, even our bestest friends in our lives, the people who are closest to us, they may want, you know, you say, okay, I really want to do this, like, please come with me. Okay, they may say, because I love you, because you're my friend, I'll go with you. I don't really want to do that, but it's fine, you love it, let's go. How long would they do that if we just keep dragging them to the same place? I don't know. I have friends who, like, I really like museums. Some friends that I have don't like museums. So please come with me. Or, you know, some nature, sometimes hiking. Sometimes people don't really want to be in nature like that. They may go once, maybe twice, maybe 3 times, but, or even if they went 10 times. But after a while, it's like, yeah, you go, I'm going to stay here. Or let's do what I want to do. Krishna doesn't do that. He's there. If that's not unconditional love, then I don't know what is. He doesn't ever leave, and he promises this in that verse, manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vashyasi satyam te pratijane priyosime. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. He's our dear friend. This is the same Krishna who was Arjuna's friend, who would be who was so close to Arjuna and so loving to Arjuna that he would be his chariot driver, who almost broke a promise on that battlefield and went back on his word when Bhishma Dev went to attack Arjuna, and Krishna had said, I'm not going to fight, I'm just going to drive the chariot. He said, I'm not going to take up any weapons. In that moment, when Arjuna was threatened, Krishna didn't care about what he had said. He didn't care about his promise. He didn't care that he was breaking his word. But here is my friend, and he's going to be hurt, he possibly even killed. And in that moment, he didn't care about any of those things. And he would do that for his friend. He would go against his word. He didn't care. Imagine, you know, when we go against our word, we look bad. You know, it's not a good representation of ourselves or our teachers. But Krishna didn't care, and he had a reputation, but he didn't care, and this was his friend. And so he's pledging that same friendship to us, that same friendship that he had to Arjuna, where he'll go anywhere with us. He never complains, and for no reason other than we are a part of him. We are part and parcel. And it is a practice. This is what this is why Srila Prabhupada mentioned that it requires some patience, because it's a practice. And, you know, we think it's almost like the dawning sun or the blooming of a flower. If you ever sat waiting for the sun to come up or the sun to go down, I've sat waiting for, you know, I'm going to go watch the sunset and it'll be beautiful. And you're sitting there and it's cold and it's early and it's dark and you're, oh, wow, nothing is happening. And you're just looking and looking and looking, and you can sit there for hours. And, you know, just when you're about to leave, you're like, okay, forget it. I must have missed it. I don't know what's happening. I know the sun's taking too long to come out. You look up, and all of a sudden, without even realizing it, the sun came up, the sun dawned. And it's the same if you ever watch a flower bloom. There's some flowers that just in the morning they just open with the sun, and if you know that that's happening, you can sit there and watch it and just stare at it, and it's almost like nothing is happening. And then the moment you realize, it's already happened. And this is what our Krishna consciousness journey is like. We feel this is, I think, a very common thing. I'd like to get some feedback on this. It's a very common thing. We feel like nothing's happening. Oh man, same old person, same old me, same old worries, same old things. And then one day we look up or we look in, right? Either up or in or out. And we realize, wow, I'm actually different. I'm different than I was. My reactions aren't the same. My suffering, yeah, is there, but it doesn't touch me as deeply. It doesn't affect me. it doesn't mean that suffering has come to an end. We were talking about Mother Raja Lila, who was stung by an insect, right? This is the one of the sufferings of the material world that caused by other living beings. So it doesn't mean that the suffering stops, but it becomes an opportunity again to be in that relationship with Krishna by either being grateful for what we do have, the suffering that we're not going through. Not to be bleak, but we can often think, wow, okay, yeah, this is not good, but it can always be worse. That's actually most of the sufferings that we have, if we put it into that perspective, or for crying out for help or praying for clarity. So all of these become the opportunity to be in relationship with him, to again remember where maybe in the past, or one could even say, even going back as far as other lifetimes, we didn't have those reactions. Some suffering would just completely debilitate us, wouldn't know what to do, throw us into just perpetual misery and have no shelter. So like a few leading up to this, where we are in the Bhagavatam, even Mother Kunti, or Queen Kunti, she was saying, yeah, the suffering's here, the suffering's all here, but now keep that suffering coming as long as you're going to keep being there for me. And so this is what happens. We change our relationship by changing our relationship to Krishna, changing our relationship to what he means in our lives, we change our relationship to suffering. So it doesn't mean suffering goes away and it stops, but we change our relationship to it. It's like, sometimes my mom, and she like bump her elbow or like her toe on something, she'd say, oh, it hurts so good. That's like this hurts, but it makes you present. It brings you back into your body. And so this is changing our relationship to the suffering. Something comes up in our lives and, oh man, this is awful, but yeah, I'm going to think of Krishna. I'm going to try to remember that he's my friend. I'm going to try to maybe even seek out. I don't feel it. Let me see what the devotees have to say about it. Someone please remind me. So it is a process. It is a practice that it's like George Harrison said, right? I really want to see you, Lord, but it takes so long. I really want to be with you, but it takes so long. And yet, Srila Prabhupada, and there's a video on YouTube where he was asked that we've been here so many lifetimes, and is it possible to undo all of our sinful activities and go back to Krishna in this lifetime? And that video, I love this video. Srila Prabhupada, without hesitation, before the question is even over, he's 1 minute. 1 minute is all we need. This is Krishna consciousness. That all you need is 1 minute of remembering, and we're back in Krishna consciousness. And how is that? Because it's like, it reminds me of when someone asked him, like, we're always when we fall into Maya, and he said, you're always in Maya. You just sometimes fall into Krishna consciousness. And it's like that when we fall into Krishna consciousness, or to say it better, when we surrender and drop into Krishna consciousness, to go beyond our suffering and drop into that Krishna consciousness. It feels like when you're on a diving board and you're about to dive in, or jumping into a pool or something, a river. It feels like that, like we're going into a void, but you fall into that Krishna consciousness. And that Krishna consciousness is beyond time and space. It's transcendental. And so to fall into Krishna consciousness is to fall into eternity. And when we fall into eternity, that's the only thing that exists. And so there's nothing else in that moment. And then I guess the practice then is staying there, right? Falling into Krishna consciousness over and over and over again. That's surrendering over and over again. That's what surrendering means. To have memory of him, whether it comes from our own hearts or from the devotees, or some realization that comes through japa, through our reading Srimad Bhagavatam. right? It's also been mentioned that Bhagavatam is like that, is our friend. I think this same devotee also mentioned this when she was speaking a few days ago, to get to that place where you realize, wow, Bhagavatam is my friend. It's the same thing. It's as real as any friend that we can have. And yeah, so the falling into Krishna consciousness over and over and over again. And then we come to that platform where these associates of Krishna are now, where they just can't help but suffering. They're crying. They just want to cry. They want to express their pain and their love and their separation. And at the same time, they're like, oh no, we're suffering, but I don't want these tears to ruin your departure, your goodbye, to bring you some inauspiciousness, right? Because it should, you want to send them off with the best, with good wishes, good intentions, but it hurts. It hurts that he's leaving. And so this is, to me, this is the sweetest expression of love, where I'm suffering so much, but you're more important than even my suffering right now. You know, it happens so much in our daily lives where, you know, let's just say there's some conflict that we have. And when we're in conflict, most often the thing that we are focused on is what the suffering that we're going through, how our needs aren't being met, how we're not being heard. And it is yes, we should be aware of what is happening with us so that we can communicate appropriately. But this is often where our communication breaks down. If you're telling me, so if we're in some conflict, we're discussing something, and you want to tell me how you're feeling, and I want to tell you how I'm feeling, and you're trying to express to me your suffering and your hurt and your pain, all I can think about is my hurt and my pain. Well, I'm not hearing you because I'm so focused on my own suffering. And in that moment, my suffering is greater than everything. And we're just waiting for the moment to express it. And, you know, as soon as the person finishes saying what they're going through, we start with, yes, but me, but my feelings, but me, or you did this, all of this, taking up being in the center. And so that's usually where our communication breaks down, and we can't express or feel true compassion, because it's about me right now and my suffering. And this is not the position that these devotees are taking here. They're feeling their own pain, but the need in this moment, which is that Krishna has an auspicious departure for his well-being, that need to them is greater. And so they're fighting back the tears, you know, when you're a kid and you're just, and you can barely breathe and you don't want to cry anymore, and you're just trying to hold it in, and like it's not working, but you really, really want to hold it in. That's what they're experiencing, but a million times greater than anything we can ever experience, because that feeling of separation from him is astronomical, is out of this world. All the little sufferings that we've had in this life, they're little baby mini sufferings, you know, and not to diminish the things that we go through, because we most of us probably have been through some very, very, very difficult situations, and not to diminish those things and to make it as if our sufferings are not important. But this kind of suffering, this kind of separation is on a different level. And that's the sweetness, right? It is in our Shastra that Srila Prabhupada, in regards to this particular verse, talks about the sahajas, the people who are trying to just enjoy this relationship with Krishna. But he says that's not our position. Our position is to be in the rasa of separation, and through that separation, we find that love, that rasa of being separated from our friend, right? Absence makes the heart grow fonder. And so there's medicine in that separation, because one thing is to love someone or something while it's here and it's present, but how much more is our expression of a love that is not here, and how does that reflect itself in our lives? How do we show that? So it's a little bit different of a mood, and through that separation, we can find him. We can find that it goes back to the original relationship, and then we realize, oh yes, I'm in separation, and this is the mood of the gopis. And this is what we're trying to attain. Maybe not in this lifetime, maybe not in 10 or 100, or in the next moment. And that's the beauty of Krishna consciousness. This is, Srila Prabhupada said, Krishna consciousness is so simple, you might miss it. And in any moment, we just, like, it's right there and we miss it, you know, simple for the simple, complicated for the complicated. And either way, it's all good, because Krishna wants this to be, it's a relationship of love. It's not a forcing. He wants this to be joyous, this process to be joyous for us. It's not, you know, often the mentality of, once I get there, I'll be happy. Once I find Krishna, I'll be happy. Once I get that house, I'll be happy. Once I get this education, I'll be happy. No, it's the journey. And this is, at least for me, the most difficult thing to remember. We just want instant gratification. We want instant enlightenment. Just add water and stir. You know, there's like a lot of these drinks or foods that all you need to do is just add water and stir, and now you have this like meal. They use them for like in the armies or Air Force or things like that, or survival kits. And we're so used to having everything right here, right now at our beck and call. We even have that sometimes in our relationship with Krishna consciousness. I just want it right now because I said so. But that's not the process. And it takes away from that sweetness, that rasa, that striving. And also because it's not cheap. You don't just say to Krishna, hey, I want Krishna consciousness. Yeah, thanks. And he's just going to supply. It's a reciprocity. It has to be earned, right? Even any of our friendships, our relationships. If you just take, and just keep asking, and don't ever give anything, no relationship lasts like that. And if it does, it's not deep. It doesn't go deep, and it won't sustain for a long time. So yeah, Krishna is our dearmost friend. Manmana bhavamad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. Mam evashyasi satyam te pratijani priyosime. He's promising this. He's promising this. And the devotees are the ones who remind us of that promise over and over. And that's why they are our greatest treasure and should be treated as such. So these are my thoughts on this beautiful verse. Does anyone have any thoughts on this?
Well, thank you so much, Mother Lila Devi. That was a very beautiful class. It's interesting because we always have different speakers on this forum, and it appears like all the speakers get together and think the same way and tell us the same stories, the same information. And that tells how potent ISKCON is. Even though it's based on each and everyone's realization, so that even makes it much sweeter. So we now have Q&A time. So we have Kusha Prabhu. You may unmute and ask your question, please. Sorry.
Hare Krishna Mother, thank you for a nice class. In the beginning of your lecture, you mentioned your mentor whom you ask what he loved most about Krishna, and he mentioned the devotees. So my question is, we talk about the 10 offenses of Vaishnava apparat. So does offenses devotees commit also remind us of Krishna? Because he answered you immediately, said devotees. And then sometimes we feel offended by the action of a devotee. But at that time, we don't think of them as being attraction coming from Krishna. We think you offended me. Why must you do this? So can you explain that, please?
Yes, thank you so much for that beautiful question. Yeah, there's two parts to that, I think. And the first, I would say the more transcendental part is that anytime that something happens to us or is presented to us in our consciousness or just comes into our field of vision, you could say spiritually, nothing happens without reason, right? Cause and effect. And so this is often the process of healing that presents us with things so that we can understand what it feels like to be on the other side of that. And there's some lesson to be learned from that. There's some medicine in that. And when it happens with devotees, it is even of a higher nature than, let's say, our karma as we're, out in the world. There's something in particular with these interactions with devotees where they rub us and it becomes uncomfortable. Because they're related to Krishna. There's some sublime truth behind all of these interactions. And it can be an opportunity for us to cleanse the ego in the association of devotees. So that's one aspect. And it's always an opportunity to learn compassion, to learn how to be in the what's going on with the other person, that they've said this or they have done this. Are they suffering? Are they in pain? Are they in the mode of ignorance? Are they in the mode of passion? What's happening? And then I can find some compassion. Or I can learn to forgive, right? Because I'm not perfect. I offend people all the time without even knowing it, or knowing it. We try not to commit offenses. So who am I to judge this person? And we can take example from Krishna, from the devotees, as to how to do that. Krishna doesn't get offended easily. If you offend his devotees or some act, but for the most part, you're just okay. Yeah, you must be going through something. You're just there. So compassion, forgiveness, or maybe it even teaches us how to stand up for our principles, and that could also be part of it too. So that's one aspect of it. That there's always something behind it. What is it that I need to learn here? Why is this presenting itself to me? And we know, if we look into our consciousness, we know what where the wound is, what part of our ego the wound is. And so we just meditate on that. Okay, I think I need to learn to forgive in this. I think I need to learn compassion, or I think I need to learn to speak up. And that's the other aspect of it, that there's that higher sublime truth reality of it. And then on the other hand, we do have to be practical and understand that we don't let ourselves be abused. We hold ourselves and others to certain standards because we're trying to help each other, right? And sometimes creating boundaries for ourselves and creating boundaries that we lovingly hold people to actually is good for them too, because then we're helping them. Not that we're arrogant, like I'm here to teach you how to be, but just by how we hold ourselves and our own boundaries, we are also helping that other person, and thereby not letting them abuse us, because that's also bad for their devotional life, their devotional service, and their spiritual life. And so in that way, we all help each other. So I hope that that made sense a little bit.
Thank you. Thank you for your answer. That's good.
Thank you very much, Mother Lila. I have a question, Mother Lila. Um, I'm sorry to ask you this question in the sense that I'm asking you a question that involves the male body, and you are in a female body. The verse says that the female relatives. Krishna did not just have female relatives, he had male relatives as well. But there is no indication anywhere here that the male relatives were also crying for Krishna leaving. So, what is wrong with the male's heart? Where is the emotion of the males? Because it's also said that, of course, we cannot fake it, we cannot force it, it has to come naturally. But those who have real love for God, they cannot even live in a second without the presence of God. And these men are all there seeing Krishna living. Nobody's crying except the women. So, how do we, as practicing devotees, try to get ourselves out of this male mentality that I'm very strong, I don't cry, and shed tears? Of course, I said it cannot be forced, but how do we practice? Or if there is anything men in particular can do to get to that level? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you for asking that. I love that question. I really do. I don't know.
Women don't cry.
Yeah, and that's part of the issue, right? Yeah, I wonder if it's because in that moment, that because there was a separation socially of the women hang out with the women and the men hang out with the men, that it's referring to just that group over there. I wonder if they had been in a society where everyone was mixed, like saying, you know, I think there was a mention of like looking over, or maybe in the next verse where it talks about they're on the balcony. Generally the men wouldn't be hanging out with the women. So I wonder if it's just pointing to the group of people that is together in that moment, and the men were generally somewhere else because they did have those social separations, particularly because these are women in the palace. They're you know, they're of a certain class and status. But for us, I think that, and it also extends beyond the male body. I think it's cultural. I'm Mexican. Both of my parents are Mexican, and it's that culture that says crying is a weakness and you shouldn't do it. And it's even harder for men. It's really, really difficult to be in a society where we're told that it's not okay to cry, it's not okay to have feelings, it's not okay to express those feelings. And I think it takes a lot of courage. I think it was, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was Gandhi who said, right, it takes more strength to be kind. It takes a stronger person, whether they're in a man body or in a female body, it takes a stronger person to be vulnerable and to actually show emotion. And it just takes practice. To start first becoming aware of what we're actually feeling, right? I work with Mother Rajalila in compassionate communication, nonviolent communication. It's so difficult, man body or female body. It's so difficult to even know what we're feeling. I have no idea sometimes why I'm, you know, behaving like this or behaving like that, until I stop and say, okay, what is happening here? What am I feeling? And so if we don't know what we're feeling, because we're not tapped into our emotional body and haven't strengthened our emotional intelligence, then how can we even express it? So it starts with that awareness. Because yes, time, place, and circumstance, sometimes it's not a good time to express our feelings. But if we start becoming aware and even expressing it to ourselves, to Krishna in private, or to another person in confidence, right? Reveal your heart in confidence, and hear another reveal their heart in confidence. Then that starts that practice. And it has to start somewhere. One of us has to take the lead and show vulnerability and the strength and the courage that is required in being vulnerable, so that other people can see, oh, this is okay. This is a person that I know is strong, I know is courageous, I know is a real man, or I know is a real woman, and yet they are showing this emotion. And hey, look, it doesn't take away from all of the things that they are. As a matter of fact, I respect them more because they have the courage to be real. And so we have to do it for each other. We have to, keep finding those opportunities. Brene Brown talks about this a lot, about the vulnerability that is required. She has on Netflix, she has this, this series that, not a series, like a talk, that is based off her original TED Talk. And, there's so many books that she's written on this vulnerability. But we have to do our part first, excuse me, in acknowledging what it is that we're feeling. Not be scared of our feelings, not be overwhelmed with them. Have the tools to know what to do with them. And there are people who can teach us those tools. And little by little, we start to practice. No, this isn't so bad. This isn't taking away from me. And then people can see, hey, that's what it's like to be real and authentic. And imagine that we teach our sons and our daughters to be real like that, to show emotion, whether it's for the relationships we have in our lives, our brothers, our sisters, our mothers, our fathers. Then how can we show true emotion and get to that place of Krishna consciousness where we're fighting back tears because we're in separation, if we can't even show emotion within our little everyday lives, in our own little relationships, because we're so proud or we're afraid we're going to look weak. I still have that. It's part of just how I grew up. And I'm grateful sometimes, often, to be in a female body, because I can just cry if I want to, and it helps me. Oh, I feel better now. Okay, everything's okay, no problem. And just cry. It needs somewhere to go. It's actually not healthy to maintain those emotions in the body. It actually can make us sick. And there's science to back that up. And so it has to start somewhere. Someone has to start to be the courageous one and say, I'm going to show this emotion. And hey, this is me. This is a real person. So what I was getting to is, if we can't do it in our lives, how can we have that emotion for Krishna? How can we even try to be in that, either bliss or separation, if we can't even deal with little human emotions? These other emotions are transcendental. We'll blow up with the intensity of them. So it's a good opportunity to practice. So I think, we can start with someone we trust, and then start learning about those tools. And even with ourselves, like, oh yeah, I'm really feeling this. Cry in private until it gets easier. I hope that helps.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much, Mother. Thank you. If anybody else has a question, you can read. Okay, Kusha Prabhu.
I have one comment on the last answer you mentioned about crying, to learn how to cry for Krishna. I love something that is a bit controversial. Someone can say, like the gopis love Krishna also. Can we say we should love the opposite sex to learn how to love Krishna? Because for the gopis, it's transcendental. The material world is mundane. So if we're using crying as an example to learn how to cry for Krishna, a non-devotee can argue. So we should also have like 16,000 wives like Krishna to learn how to associate with Krishna. I don't know if you get my point.
Yeah, can you just repeat that last part?
A non-devotee can say Krishna has 16,108 wives. That we can also have like that to learn how to
I
associate
see.
with Krishna. If we can use crying to learn how to cry for Krishna, we can use other Krishna's activities with the gopis to learn how to associate with
Ah,
Krishna.
that's a good
So it's a bit
point.
misleading.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Well, this is why that type of rasa uh, is for later, right? We don't give that, we don't speak about that kind of rasa often at the very beginning when someone doesn't have the understanding. So first we have to understand that we are experiencing the perverted reflection, the upside down reflection of all of the rasas. And then I think if we understand that, if we share that with people before we start sharing about that kind of rasa that the gopis have with Krishna, because it's that Radharani has with Krishna, it's very different, and we can't understand it until we first understand that we are in not that. So yeah, that's a good point. That is, and then Srila Prabhupada, that's, I think that's why when he speaks about this verse, that this, he talks a lot. There's a talk that was transcribed, definitely on Veda base, but he talks about Sahajya and that this is not what we are. So he knows that people are going to go there. But I think with the understanding, if we understand that we are the upside down reflection, to put it nicely, the reality is that it's a perverted reflection, but the upside down reflection of what is actually real. And so we can't assume to understand the pure love and the pure rasa, because it's beyond the physical body, even the sexes, right? Whether it's the female body or male body, ultimately all the jivas are feminine. And so we're actually talking about transcending everything in this world that includes the body, the gender, the orientation. It's transcending all of that. And we can see we have a lot of work to do in that. We're still sometimes struggling with those things. That, no, it should be like this. Oh, no, this is what it means. But it does transcend all of those designations. And it, that understanding doesn't come to us very easily. So yeah, people may think that, but that's why I think we don't talk about it like that from the beginning. Yeah, I hope that helps. Does anybody have anything else to add to that? Because that's a really good point.
Hare Krishna, I think your answer is good enough. I hope Krishna Prabhu is okay with it. If anybody else has a
But yeah,
question,
in
you may
that
ask.
answer, Prabhupada used to say when Narada Muni came to check on Krishna how he's doing with all his wives, he saw Krishna here sleeping with the keys, another place Krishna playing football with the keys, another place he's having breakfast or lunch. So Prabhupada said, if anybody want to be like Krishna, let him expand himself. Also, the number of Krishnas expanded.
Yeah.
So that's how we used to smash the Sahajans. Expand yourself, then you can do like Krishna. If you cannot do like Krishna.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Hi. That's a great point.
Yeah. Mother, see, as aspiring devotees, sometimes we come to the awareness that, hey, why am I struggling so much? Tomorrow I'll be dead, I'll be gone, all my houses, whatever I struggled for, I will leave everything behind. So why do I have to struggle to have this or have that? And that could lead to people becoming lazy. Or if even not becoming lazy, as devotees, understanding that everything is going to be left behind. All we need to focus our attention on is Krishna consciousness. Then how do we help society to have something like good highways? You know, how do we think that, okay, like we're using Zoom now. You are so many miles away from me, so miles away from others, but somehow we are all connected together. If devotees begin to think that we're going to leave everything behind, why do we have to struggle to have this, have that? So my question is, how do we as devotees, understanding that yes, it's a fact that we're going to leave everything behind, but at the same time be resourceful in society building? How do we do that? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I struggle with this too. This is a question I always have. And where I am with that is we have to take Krishna's example, because he says, we have to act, we have to do something. And so understanding that whatever we do or don't do is creating some effect and will prolong what we're trying to get back to, which is out of this material world, then I think we'll be more careful. And Vishnu's the maintainer. We why wouldn't we take example? Why would we do anything different? For example, we have a house. Yes, we know that this house is not going to be, or an apartment, we know that it's not going to be permanent. One day we will leave, or any moment, some hurricane can come, some earthquake, right? These things are part of material world. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to clean our house and maintain the yard and take out the garbage just because we know that it's temporary. We still have to maintain what we have. So we have to act. We can't just, technically we can choose to not do anything. But if we understand that will give us a certain effect, that there will be an effect to that, cause a reaction to that action, even if it's inaction, then I think we will be more careful. So it's a matter of for me at least, using my intelligence of like, okay, I have a choice, I have free will, I can choose to do nothing. Here's what will happen if I choose to do nothing, if I choose to be lazy, and I completely understand that too. And oh yeah, it's all gonna end one day, so what's the point? But that's not our position. Our position is that we have to do something, we have to act. Even Krishna is working. He says, if I stop working, then everyone will take bad example and they'll stop working. So by him working, he's saying to us, this is how you should do it. I don't have to work, and yet I'm working. So why should we be any different? And yeah, we're in Kali Yuga, and we're only going in one direction. And I think that's sometimes discouraging. Like, wow, what is the point of all this? Why strive? Why even share Krishna consciousness if we're all going? But two things. One is, out of love and compassion, we try to get as many people off the sinking ship as we can, like Titanic, try to save as many as we can, try to save ourselves and try to save as many people as we can. Because that's Radharani's mood. And so we're followers of Radharani, and that's what she's doing. She, out of her mercy, is trying to save as many jivas as she can. Out of, if Kali Yuga and the material world is all sinking, because that's the nature, we try to get as many out as we can, out of our, as a service, our love and compassion, because we have been saved by someone. That some devotee has put that seed in our heart, and that means that they're lifting us up out of the water that we're drowning in, right, out of the material world. And the other is just like, playing a sport. You may win or you may lose, but you go out and you do your best. And you don't say, oh, I don't know, I may lose, so I'm not going to play really well. It's part of the rasa, right? You go out, you do your best, and Hare Krishna. Then see, the results are not up to us, right? So I think it's taking example, yeah, and using our free will wisely. You know, use it well or lose it, right? And we don't want that. We have to, if we really value our free will and our ability to make a choice and choose the trajectory of where we're going, if not just in this lifetime but in the next, then if we value that, then I think we'll use it wisely. And I'm actually really glad you said that, because it's something sometimes I struggle with, like doing, you know, putting effort. So I'm pretty much talking to myself on that. I really appreciate you saying that. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Beautiful analogies to that question I asked. Thank you so much. If anyone else has one or two questions, otherwise we'll bring the class to a close. But Lila, I think this is our first time having your association. We hope we can have more of you in the future. We really enjoy your class and association. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your patience, your tolerance, your participation. I'm really grateful to be here. I'm honored, I'm humbled, and yeah, I really appreciate all of you. This is beautiful Sangha.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Your next class will disturb you a bit. Today we welcome you.
Okay.
This is a family circus, so we sometimes have lots of fun.
Okay, well, I am so grateful then that, you know, you welcomed me like this today, because otherwise I may be scared and not come back. But yeah,
No.
in all Krishna consciousness and in all love and fun, bring it, because it'll only help me. Tear my ego to shreds, please. I'm at your mercy.
Thank you. So,
Hare Krishna.
thank you so much. So we ask each and everyone to unmute themselves with chant Hare Krishna.
We're going to schedule you for next month, October. If you're free. Mother, are you free, Mother Lila?
Yes, it would be my honor, my pleasure.
Okay.
Haribol!
Haribol, dear
Lila, we gave her
friends.
to you.
Haribol, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, so let's all chant Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare Rama.
Jai, all
the
glories to the
grace,
assembled
Lila
devotees.
Devi.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol. Haribol. Thank you all so much. Have a beautiful day.
Hare Krishna.
You too.
Haribol.
Thank you so much, Mataji.
Hello. Can we speak to Mother Vraja Taruni? Are you still here?
Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
I think she's
yes. Here. Will you like to speak one day?
About?
No, to give class.
You like to give class one day?
No. Me,
somebody said on the chat room we should schedule you to speak.
No, not yet. Maybe
okay.
In a few months. I'm not ready, I think.
All right. Thank you.
How is Luis Suarez doing? How is Luis Suarez doing?